Hi and welcome back to Dusty Book Sniffers. I'm Nicole and today we are here to talk about Ruth Ozeki's The Book of Form of Emptiness. So let's get into it. Good morning or good evening, everybody. No matter where you're watching from, thank you for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me while I prattle on about the books that I have read. If you are a new viewer or a returning viewer and you've yet to subscribe, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and then that way you're not going to miss out on any bookish uploads. And as always, while you're there, hit the thumbs up button as well. Alright, so today we are here to talk about Ruth Ozeki's The Book of Form and Emptiness. This book just blew me away. I will go right ahead and say that. So as normal, I go through all the different things about it. It was published in 2021. It has 546 pages. I listened to this on audio, but loved it that much. Got it in the physical because I want to reread it again and probably take a few more notes. And this was also the winner for the 2022 Women's Prize for Fiction. This was the winner. And so I decided that I was going to do some group reads over in my Discord, and this was the first one off the rank as it was the winner. And yeah, I must say everybody that has discussed it over there so far has really liked it. I absolutely loved it and couldn't put it down, although work did get in the way on several occasions and I had to put it down, but I was straight back to it. So I ended up listening to this on audio and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I would really like to go back and read it with my eyeballs and maybe even do some immersive reading as well. I just think I could take so much more from the book. So basically the story is following Benny and Annabelle. Annabelle is Benny's mum, and it starts off with Kenji, Benny's father, and her husband getting killed in a tragic accident, and it follows on from that and how they cope with the death and the grief and everything else that goes along with that. So basically we've got Benny O, and so his father was Japanese and was also a Japanese monk, and it was right into classical music and all that sort of stuff, and he also had a substance abuse problem. So basically after the death of his father, he starts to hear voices, but it's not voices that are outside his body or just in his head as such. It's from inanimate objects, so things like scissors, table legs, teapots, socks, all that sort of stuff, right? So everything around him, and he starts hearing the voices while he's at home, and they're talking and they're prattling on and all that sort of stuff, and he is having trouble coping with that, and he's trying to ignore it, and subsequently the problem gets worse as we go on, and then he starts to hear him outside the house, and he finds solace in the library where the objects are more well behaved and talk in hushed tones, and he surrounds himself with books. The unique thing about this book is that it is actually told from the perspective of a book. So, and there are moments in the book where Benny is engaging with the book because the book is his and it's telling his story. And so basically there's a few laugh out loud moments where Benny is sort of rousing on the book for sharing that information about his parents, because that's private and no one needs to hear about that, including himself. And then, the book also explains how books feel when we as people touch the books or don't read the books to their completion, or we start reading a book and then we'll start another book and then this book gets pushed down the pile, and how they feel and all that sort of stuff. But the main focus of the story is about Benny and his struggle with the voices that he hears. And at the same time, Annabelle is also facing her own struggles. She's suffering with guilt because they had a huge argument before he left the house. And when he died, she had actually said to him, "Don't come back." And so she's suffering with guilt, and then that breeds a whole heap of problems with her. So Benny is hearing these voices and he's finding solace in the library. Subsequently, he, as I said, he starts hearing the voices outside of the home, and then it follows him into school, and it sort of presents a bit of a problem where the scissors are telling him to do something to the teacher, and so to not do something to the teacher, he actually hurts himself, and this leads him to be essentially hospitalized for it in the psych ward. And so basically, then it sort of, he starts to meet a few people in the ward while he's there getting help. He progresses and he goes back home, and he just is really struggling to connect with his mother. His mother's struggling to connect with him. She's having her own issues, along with him having issues with hearing these voices and getting very frustrated with it. And so basically, when he does go home and he goes to high school, because he's around 14 at this time, 13, 14, and he goes to a new school because he's graduated and he's gone to the next part of his schooling. He basically works out a way that he can deceive the school and his mother and go to the library and not go to school, because it had got around that he has had problems and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, no one likes to deal with that sort of crap. Like, no one likes to deal with that crap, not even characters in a book. So basically, he finds himself at the hospital, and then he runs into the Elif, I think they call her, and basically she is a street artist, and he also befriends a homeless guy who is somewhat of a poet and a philosopher named Slavlov. And basically, the story is centered around them at this stage, and they're helping Benny to come to terms with the voices and ask bigger questions and all that sort of stuff. Meanwhile, we've got Annabelle, who is struggling with everything. As I said, she's got the guilt. She's struggling to hold down a job. She's afraid that she's going to lose her job. She works in a place where they snip out articles of the newspaper, and because newspapers are becoming obsolete, they then move her to home, and she has to save all these things and whatnot. And basically, the hoarding side of things come into play in this, and that's how she is trying to deal with the grief of losing Kenji. And so she's working from home. She's got this mission control, as they call it, where all her computers are, and she spends her days, she's quite overweight because she's put a lot of weight on since he's died, and this sort of disgusts Benny doesn't really like it very much. And so a little bit of, you know, what's it called, where you don't like body dysmorphic is the word I'm trying to get out. So there's a little bit on that, not too much, just a little bit, where he's just not liking the fact that she's overweight, and he's struggling, as I said, to connect with her, and as her with him. And basically, she then becomes quite hoardy, and she grabs things and holds on to them, and even if they're useless things, and she shops on eBay, and basically before you know it, it gets out of control. But Benny, on the other hand, is quite organised. His room is the only place in the house that's organised, neat and tidy. The rest of the house is being overwhelmed by stuff. And so she's out shopping one day, and a book called Tiny Magic jumps into her trolley. Literally, it is explained as it's jumped into her trolley. And basically, she takes that book home, and it's called Tiny Magic, and it's written by a Zen Buddhist nun, and it's the art of tidying. And it takes... I've never read the book. What's her name? Marie Kondo. It takes in the author has said that she's taken inspiration from that. So it's centered around that sort of stuff, that you thank the things that you've got in your life and all that sort of stuff. So basically, while she's trying to deal with that, and she's still struggling, she doesn't read the book, she pushes the book away and all that sort of stuff. And then it also comes to light that Benny needs more and more help to get through the stage that he's getting through. And that's where his friends that he's made at the library are coming in and helping him with that. They're sort of like his support network. And the story flows on from there. And basically there is a one point in the story where Benny says nothing. He doesn't narrate anything. And in the story, he's actually got what they call selective mutism, where he's just not talking and he's not walking, so he's not part of that story. And in that part, that's when Annabelle starts to get help, and the people around her from the library start to support her a little bit more and help her to start cleaning and get more organized. And meanwhile, she's also writing these emails to the author of Tidy Magic, and she says in it one part of the book that she doesn't really want her to respond. It's just really cathartic for her to write these emails to her and getting the stuff off, and it's helping her through the grieving process. What I found really interesting about this book is it's really asking, for me, it was really asking the question, what is normal? Like, because people hear voices, like you have your inner critic. Like, I've just got some notes here about interesting facts and whatnot about the book. and the author that I want to talk about as well. But it sort of poses the question, you know, what is normal? Like in Western society, as a compared to Eastern philosophies and whatnot, our window of normal is like this little tiny little slither, but really what's normal? Like that for me, that's what you know, is it a bad thing that he's hearing voices? You know, like he's not doing harm to anybody. And like we've all got our inner critic. We've all got those voices in our head that, you know, very rarely praise us more, put us down than anything else. And, you know, and then you think of people that are artistic and creative and all that sort of stuff. They must hear, you know, stories must come into their mind. Are they not voices as well? So like there was I got a lot of feel of that for it, and not knowing anything about Ruth Ozeki, because obviously I've been under a rock for a very long time, and never read anything from her before. I found that there was a lot of comparisons, while they were very subtle, and they weren't in your face, like up in your grill or anything like that, or in your face. They were just very subtle. They were there, and they just brought the story to life a little bit. And some of those things were, you know, like what is normal, what really is, you know, is it mental, like not mental health, you know, like I said, what is normal basically is what I'm trying to say. So there were different things that were coming to light that other people might see as crazy, whereas other people don't see it as crazy. And the comparison between the two cultures, the Japanese culture and then the Western culture, in the Japanese culture, according to this book, I don't look into it too much. I haven't looked into it too much. You know, things have voices, and things have, you need to thank things, and you need to be grateful for the things that you have and respect the things that you have and all that sort of stuff. So it was a lot of that sort of stuff in there alluding to that it's not so much of a bad thing that he can hear the voices of the objects. And then, you know, you've got the other side of the mental illness scale, whereas hoarding is seen as a mental illness, and, you know, and do you dig deeper to find the catalyst of what's causing that hoarding? And in Annabelle's case, it was the death of, she always liked stuff, but the cause, her root cause was basically Kenji dying, and that just exacerbated the situation. And, you know, does it make her less of a person being able to care for her son or anything like that? Sort of that was questioned in there. There was also a little bit about like how mental health is dealt with by doctors. There was a little snippet in there about the doctor not believing that Benny had these two friends of the bottle guy and the street artist. And so there was a lot of, there was a little bit of alluding to that she wasn't believed, and then it made Annabelle very anxious, and she had to prove to the doctor that these people were real, and they turned out to be real. They came and helped her clean up her property and stuff like that. My most favourite part of the book was when Annabelle hurt herself and the crows protected her. I really loved that. I thought that was absolutely fabulous. You know, she had been feeding the crows, and Kenji had been feeding the crows, and to thank her, they protected her from the rain when she hurt herself and she couldn't move. And so, and, you know, there was the villain in there trying to get her kicked out of the house and stuff like that. And it was just a really, really good book. Now, some of the interesting facts that I have since found out since reading this book is that the author is actually a Zen Buddhist priestess. So that I didn't know, and now I do. And she also introduced things, like if you've read this, you know that there's a snow globe in that Annabelle bids on eBay to get it and paid a high price for it. But anyway, the snow globe that was in it, Ruth Ozeki actually received a present as a snow globe, and she introduced things from her real life into the book and to see where the story ran. And basically the snow globe was one of them. And as you know, in the book, Annabelle collected them, and the Elif, she created them. And so there was also other little things in there as well that were really interesting. There was also some mention, like there was the mention of, as I said, little subtle things in there. So political unrest was in there. There was also some global warming in there as well. And they're very, very subtly, I got the impression that Ruth was trying to talk about the consumerism side of Western society, how stuff is just accumulated when we don't necessarily need the stuff. And it sort of got me thinking that maybe, you know, like there is something to that. I know that when I don't have a lot of stuff around me, I feel more calmer. So that really sort of hit home to me, and it sort of made me think that maybe it might be time for me to have a bit of a de-stash from the bedroom and stuff like that, because that's generally where I start. And but I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this book, and the other few people that were reading it with us, they have actually enjoyed it as well. I know one of them has actually given it a 5-star. One of them is still reading it, so hopefully she's finished it before this goes up, but because I know she watches the channel all the time. But if you have not read this book, I do thoroughly recommend it. As I said, I've given it a 5-star rating. There is so much more and so many things that I want to talk about. As I said, the real interesting part is how it is actually a book that is telling the story along with some other characters in there as well, but it's mostly the book telling Benny's story. So 5-star from me. If you haven't picked it up yet, pick it up. You'll absolutely love it. I promise you won't want to put it down. But that's it from me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Happy reading, and I will see you very soon. But as always, if you have yet to subscribe, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below with the book emoji. Happy reading, everybody. Have a fabulous day, and I will see you all again next time. Bye for now.